Hello and welcome to Ms. Cooper's art class. Today I'm going to show you how I like to practice stippling. So you can see a post-it note next to me that has some, looks like dots and lines on it. It's actually made entirely of dots where I practice some stippling so you know what this looks like. I'm using a felt tip pen. It's a Sharpie pen. Any kind of felt tip pen would work for this. It could be Prismacolor, Sharpie, a Flair pen, or my favorites, Pigma Microns. And I'm just using just plain old printer paper for this, nothing fancy. This is just a practice. And I'm going to start by making a line out of dots. So I'm zoomed in, and I started this at regular speed so you can kind of see how fast that develops, and now I'm going to speed it up a little bit. And I drew some kind of swirling lines today. Sometimes what I draw changes depending on the day. Sometimes it's straight lines or jagged lines. It could even be shapes. I don't really do that, but I suppose you could draw little circles and then fill them in. And then what I do is I kind of take a closer look at the paper and I start strengthening those lines by adding smaller stippling dots in between each dot that I already drew. So I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to watch me do it full speed. So it looks like I'm just outlining it. I'm actually not. I'm just going really, really fast because I sped this up. And once I have a line established, now I can practice shading. So I add the middle and the light values first, because what I tell people is you can always add more dots, it's just hard to remove them. So what I do is I go kind of directly in between each set of dots and add more dots. It is important to be careful about where you place your stippling dots because you don't want to end up with any clumps or anything like that. You want your dots to be kind of even and nice and make some smooth shading. So I'm going to add a little bit more, and it's making kind of a defined line. I have a lot of light values in there. It's a pretty quick transition from dark to light, and I can always add more. And so what you're practicing here is adding a range of value and making sure that your dots transition smoothly from one value to another. Now, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with wide open spaces in my drawings, so I'm adding some smaller detailed lines kind of in the middle of my swirl. And I'm practicing a different thing over here, so I'm expanding my darker values out just a little bit more in this one section here. Remember, when you're doing this, this is your doodling, this is your practice, so you practice what you need to do. This would be very useful for practicing for drawing a face, for example, where sometimes you have some sharper lines, like the edges of your eyelids, but sometimes those things transition out a little bit smoother into the cheeks. So I would find this kind of practice useful for something like a face. But maybe if you were doing architecture, then maybe you would want a lot of straight lines and smooth gradients and things like that. Now, I was just feeling the swirls that day. Could always mix it up. You could always have a bunch of different things in there. That could work. You could try different pen sizes, see how well you do with some smaller tips or some bigger tips on your pens. Sometimes it's nice to mix that up when you're doing a final drawing to cover your ground or make different textures. If you wanted to kind of jazz it up a little bit more, maybe you could do black and blue dots, or you could add a couple different colors. Remember, this is your practice. This is your doodling. Whatever you need to do. I'm uncomfortable with big white spaces, so I'm going to add little details in there. Maybe you won't. Maybe you want to do something different with yours. I tried adding a shadow in the middle of those to kind of make a wrinkle. I'm not totally sure if I'm into that, but that's okay. I was kind of getting a little bit done with that area. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do next over there, so I just moved on. One of my favorite people to watch on YouTube, Peter Draws, and I know you would probably enjoy him if you enjoy this channel and if you enjoy this video. But I was watching one of his videos the other day, and he was talking about, when you're doodling or you're practicing a skill, if you don't like an area, just go do a new one. Just go do something different for a little bit. Move to a different part of your paper. And that's something that I have to remember to do, and it's something that I did remember to do in here. So I got tired of the swirls, and I started making this little cloud shape over here instead. And I think I did get a little bit more comfortable with it as I went on because I was doing something I liked and because I was kind of warmed up at this point. Even though I've been drawing for a while, and I think I'm pretty good at it most of the time. I do like to warm up just a little bit, especially if I'm doing something with stippling or ballpoint pens or pencils where I want to be more precise. I kind of have to warm up. Now you'll see I moved this off camera so I could get my dots a little bit neater in this area. I needed to put it basically right up to my face. I had my nose almost touching the paper trying to do this. I added this little section of shading in the middle. I was pretty happy with that. I liked that I did that. And that's what practicing is for. See the things that you like. By the end of this, I decided I wanted to soften up some of the lines that I made. I felt like they were a little harsh and not exactly what I wanted to see on the paper that day, so I could practice being a little more subtle by making those lines just a little bit softer at the end. I think the reason why I like this is because I tended to just pick one particular direction for the lines to go. I never really had them go out both sides of most of the lines, and I think that worked. This took about a minute and 1 hour and 2 minutes and 3 seconds by the time I was done, in case you're wondering. Anyway, with that, thank you so much for watching. If you'd love to send me any of your doodles or any practices that you do, I have an email in my About section. Comment if you want to, like if this was helpful, and subscribe for more. I'd love to do more stuff like this. Anyway, thank you so much for watching.